समस्तलोकशङ्करम् अनाथदीनरक्षकम् अनन्तसद्गुणाकरम् अनाथदीनरक्षकम् अनन्तसद्गुणाकरम् गणेश्वरम् गजेश्वरम् सुरेश्वरम् महेश्वरम् गणेश्वरम् ईश्वरम् सुरेश्वरम् महेश्वरम् नमामि ॐ विनायकम् समस्तलोकशङ्करम् नमामि ॐ विनायकम् समस्तलोकशङ्करम् योगिनां हृदन्तरे वसन्तभास्करम् विभुं योगिनां हृदन्तरे वसन्तभास्करम् विभुं मुदाकरं कृपाकरं सुदानन्दात्मरञ्जकम् मुदाकरं कृपाकरं सुदानन्दात्मरञ्जकम् गणेश्वरं गजेश्वरं सुरेश्वरं महेश्वरं गणेश्वरं गजेश्वरं सुरेश्वरं महेश्वरं नमामि ॐ विनायकम् समस्तलोकशङ्करम् नमामि ॐ विनायकम् समस्तलोकशङ्करम् रङ्गा हरे विठला पुरन्दर रङ्गा हरे विठला पंडरीरंगा हरे विठला पंडरीरंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पंडरीरंगा हरे विठला पंडरीरंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला नरहररंगा हरे विठला नरहररंगा हरे विठला मुरहररंगा हरे विठला मुरहररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पंडरीरंगा हरे विठला पंडरीरंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला हररंगा हरे विठला नरहररंगा हरे विठला मुरहररंगा हरे विठला हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला पुरंदररंगा हरे विठला Oh
भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शांति शांति। We will chant Bhaj Govindam verses 10 to 12. भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति दुष्कृन्करणे वयसि गते कः कामविकारः शुष्के नीरे कः कासारः क्षीणे वित्ते कः परिवारो ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसारः मा कुरु धन जन यौवन गर्वं हरति निमेषा काल सर्वं मायामयमिदमखिलं बुद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा दिनयामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायातः कालः क्रीडति गच्छत्यायुः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशावायुः काते कान्ता धनगतचिन्ता वातुल किं तव नास्ति नियन्ता त्रिजगति सज्जन संगतिरेका भवति भवार्णवतरणे नौका जटिलो मुण्डी लुञ्चितकेशः काषायाम्बर बहुकृतवेषः पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढो रुदरनिमित्तं बहुकृतवेषः अंगं गलितं फलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डं वृद्धो याति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापिण्डम् अग्रे वह्निः पृष्ठे भानुः रात्रौ चुबुकसमर्पितजानुः करतलभिक्षस्तरुतलवासः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापाशः कुरुते गंगा सागर गमनं व्रत परिपालन मथवा दानम् ज्ञान विहीन सर्वमतेन मुक्तिं न भजति जन्मशतेन सुरमन्दिरतरुमूल निवासः शय्याभूतल मजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा संगरतो वा संगविहीनः यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चेत्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव भगवद्गीता किञ्चिदधीता गङ्गा जललव कणिकापीता सुहृदपि येन मुरारिसमर्चा क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्रुन्करणे. So we have been studying the chapter Light of Wisdom, the chapter 7 of the Vedanta Treatise. In that we have elaborately covered the veil of ignorance, the first topic. So the topic thoroughly studied and understood that the entire universe, this world itself is created because of ignorance of reality. There is only a reality, there is only God, there is only Brahman alone exists, nothing else. But because of we have lost the cognition, we have lost the recognition of the Supreme Self within, we have created this ignorance of the Supreme Self. This ignorance is the cause for birth of the beings, the cause of this universe, cause of this life. This is the fundamental understanding we must have. Then how to get rid of this entire illusory projection and the thraldom and bondage of this world of birth and death and suffering is only to get back to recognize the self, cognize the Atman, gain the knowledge of Atman, the Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya. There is no other shortcut for the freedom, the liberation, what happiness everybody is looking for. So this is what we covered in the previous topic. Now we get on to the topic of how to gain that wisdom, how to gain that enlightenment, how to gain the knowledge of the Supreme Self. This is the only mission, this is the only purpose. Jnana vihinaha sarvamatena muktim na bhajati janma shatena. Just now we chanted Bhajagovindam also. Bhagavad Gita kinchita dhita ganga jalalava kanikapita. So you must gain the knowledge of the reality to get out of this suffering-ridden, illusory world. So how to gain the wisdom? So the world today, the entire world today is afflicted, completely afflicted, inflicted with binding principles and precepts. The condition of human being today is all concepts, all ideas, all thoughts human being currently carrying, they are all binding principles and precepts, ideas which have no direction and no dimension. People are forced to abide by artificial rules and of conduct. So you are all forced to follow the artificial rules and regulations, code of conduct, a mechanical routine adherence to external rules and regulations. They cannot change their inner nature. So just by mere following mechanical rules and regulations, binding principles, do's and don'ts, the information, the instructions without understanding, they will not change your personality, your nature. Even threats and punitive actions, even threatening and punitive actions means punishments. You can give any kind of punishments for the actions done by the people. Punitive actions will not mend matters, will not solve the problems of humanity. The human being following the dogmas and doctrines mechanically will not solve the problems. Instead, what's supposed to be done? Instead, that would suppress their minds and frustrate them. If you force it to ask the people to follow the rules and regulations mechanically, that only makes the human beings suppressed, frustrated, repressed. They rebel, they'll break the rules, they will try to cross the rules and regulations. Nothing will help them out. So what is that? This religious, especially in the religious field, the dogmas and doctrines, the doctrines means the fanatic ideas, rigid rules and regulations, doctrines and dogmas thrust upon the people, thrusting upon the masses, cannot bring about spiritual development. The spiritual development cannot be a forced endeavor, a forced activity. Today, spirituality became a doctrines and dogmas, a fanatic ideas of rigid rules and regulations. You go to temple, you go to church, you go to mosque. What are you doing there? Just following a mechanical routine procedures of the do's and don'ts. Jaragandi, jaragandi, jaragandi. In the Tirupati, you just push it into the queue and pushed out of the queue. By the time you recognize, you realize you are out. And at most, if you are lucky, you get Tirupati Laddu. That's all. So this is what you mean to say. Doctrines, religious doctrines and dogmas thrust upon the masses cannot bring about spiritual enhancement. Spiritual development is not mechanical. It is the knowledge. It is the understanding. So the way to go about it, the way to go for spiritual development, human development, inner development is to instill the knowledge of the inner self, knowledge of the supreme self within you. You must install. We say install the software in the computer. You have to instill the knowledge of the self inside you. Then only you will be able to get out of this wrong understanding of life, the misery and suffering of this life. So that would eradicate the sorrow and misery and ensure enduring peace and happiness. Every human being is looking for only peace and happiness, and that can never be achieved through these doctrines and dogmas, through these fanatic, rigid principles, binding rules and regulations, mechanical adhering of this religious practices without knowing the knowledge, the technique, the know-how, the concept behind, the idea behind, the purpose behind, the very source of why all this knowledge. Without knowing this, the whole life is total waste, total futile exercise. That's what these great masters are telling. That then only once you gain the knowledge of the inner self, once you gain the knowledge of the reality, once you gain the knowledge of your own true nature, your own Atman within, the self within, you will be automatically gaining the peace and bliss and whole misery, whole suffering, whole turmoil, whole confusion, whole chaos whole problems will be solved instantly. Just as many times you have been studying, what is that? The past class also we studied. When the house is filled with darkness, filled with intense darkness, how much our intensity of the darkness, how much time it is in the darkness, either the time wise or the thickness wise or denseness of the darkness, first strike of the one ray of light is enough to burn the entire darkness, and you get the clarity to steer clear of in the passage through the dark room. How much ever you try to arrange the furniture, arrange the room, arrange this thing, it will not solve the problem. You will be attacked by, you will be knocked off by this niches and notches furniture and gets bruises and injure and cut yourself, and you will be suffering and suffering. But when you switch on the light, when you gain the knowledge of the reality, when you gain this light inside, instantly the entire room is illumined, and you don't have to touch anything, you don't have to change the room, you don't have to change the furniture, you don't have to change anything. You just know yourself how to make your way through that dark room and get out of that room. This is the great understanding, great opportunity only for a human being to come out of this worldly bondage and worldly suffering. What is that? Gain the knowledge of the inner self that would eradicate sorrow and misery and ensure enduring. Enduring means long-lasting, everlasting, continuous, perennial happiness, peace, which you really are. It is your birthright. You are the heir to it. You are the owner of it. That's what it means to say. The process, this gaining of this Vedantic knowledge, no doubt takes a little time. It is not short crash course. I want to be overnight enlightened. I want to become overnight,